Okay, so we're up to the seventh aliyah in the book of devariim, the first book. Starts with we're in Deuteronomy with devariim chapter 3, verse 15. And to Machir I give Gilad. So Gilad, of course, is like also a mountain, but it's also maybe more than just a mountain. And to the Reubenites and to the Gadites I gave from Gilad to the brook of Arnon, the midst of the brook and the border, until the brook of Jabbok, which is the boundary of the children of Ammon. So he's giving this whole area to the Reubenites and the Gadites. The plain, the Jordan, and the border thereof, from the Kinneret to the sea of the plain of the Sea of Salt, Yamamelech, under the waterfalls of Pishga, eastward, and wait, he gave all that? That's all inside of Eretz Israel, isn't it? Current Eretz Israel. And I commanded you at that time, saying, the Lord your God has given you this land to possess it, to pass over armed before your brothers, the children of Israel, who are who are warriors. Now, where did we get the weapons from? Again, did we get them all from Egypt when they all went into the Yam Suf? Did we keep those weapons for 38 years? Did we make new weapons? But your wives, your children, and your cattle, for which I know that you have much cattle, you shall dwell in your cities, which I have given you. Now, again, he's talking to these tribes that wanted to settle not in technically Eretz Israel, Eretz Canaan. So they had promised that they would leave their children, their wives, and their cattle behind and go fight ahead of the rest of the group. So I think that's what's going on. Until the Lord has given rest to your it is okay. Until the Lord has given rest to your brothers, just as He did for you, and until they also possess the land which the Lord your God is giving them on the other side of the Jordan, then every man shall return to his possession which I have given you. So this border that we read up above in verse 17, and verse 16 and 17, this border, which is the brook of Arnon, the midst of the brook, and the border until the brook of Jabbok, which is the boundary of the children of Ammon, the plain, the Jordan, and the border thereof, from the Kinneret to the sea of the plain of the Salt Sea, the Yamamelech, under the waterfalls of Pisgah eastward. That's all for the Reubenites and the Gadites. So that's all this whole area, which a lot of this is in modern Israel, and a lot of it's, of course, in what's now Jordan. Okay, back to where I was, and until the Lord is given. So there's that area, that descriptive area, that's going to be given to these people after they fight the war, and after everybody else is able to settle Eretz Canaan. So however long that war is going to happen in the book of Yeshua, we're going to read about that in the book of Yeshua. Then after all that, then these guys can go back and live in their cities. And I commanded Yeshua at that time, saying, your eyes have seen all the land. Your eyes have seen all that the Lord your God has done to these two kings, so will the Lord do to all the kingdoms through which you will pass. It was more than just two kingdoms. It was more than just two kings. There was a lot. We mentioned a few other kings. There was a lot of kings that we mentioned. Do not fear them, for it is the Lord your God who is fighting for you. He's saying this to Yeshua ben Nun, who was his top Talmud, right? He was his top student. He has to encourage his top student. So you see that even if you're like the right-hand man of the greatest prophet who ever lived, and you sit in his tent, and you sat in his tent, and you learn Torah, and you are going to be the next leader, and you got your leadership in front of the whole group, in front of the entire country, and Moses said, I'm going to give you some of my prophecy. Even with all that, Yeshua ben Nun still needs this hizuk, and he still needs the practical. He needs to, hey, remember we just like we just destroyed those kings, and God was with us. God's going to be with you too. So, you need a lot of confidence. You need confidence. It's like a lot of times we think of religious people as these people now with no confidence who just sit in base. Unfortunately, now we think oh, they're just sitting in base medrash and learning Gemara, which was a nice pursuit, right? And it's worthwhile to learn Talmud. But here you also have to have confidence. You have to believe that God's going to be with you. You have to really believe it. And it doesn't matter what all your accomplishments were, what the accomplishments of your friends were, or of your leader, of your rebbe, of your rabbi. It doesn't matter it doesn't matter if he's the greatest Talmud Chacham of his generation, of your generation. It doesn't matter if you were the right hand man of Rabbi Moshe Feinstein's Zatzal, of Rabbi Avadia of Yosef Zatzal, or all these amazing tzaddikim who lived in the last, let's say, 100 years. It doesn't matter if you were like they're like Talmud Nochach, if you were like their prize Talmud, you still need Hizuk. You still need like to believe that God's with you. You still need that. Even no matter how much you've learned, no matter what you know, you still need to have belief. And that ends the seventh aliyah.